From Fox 8 Sports, this is the Overtime Podcast.
From the Fox 8 studios in New Orleans is the Fox 8 Overtime Podcast. I'm Vasilios. That is Sean Fazende. Remember to like, subscribe, rate, and review. You can find us wherever you listen to and watch your podcast. And if you happen to be watching on YouTube, hit the little bell notification button. You get an update every time we upload a new podcast. Sean, it's not a Victory Monday.
No.
It's not a Victory Tuesday like we had last week.
Nope.
It is the first loss of the Saints season. They did not go 3-0 like we originally hoped, and they are down a man. They are getting one back this week, but this one comes to the league's most important position at quarterback. Derek Carr week to week with an AC joint sprain. Where do we start with that?
All right. Well, first off, I was there. I saw it. We looked at our video of the play. At first, I honestly thought it was a concussion situation because his head hit the turf. He had nothing to really break his fall when he got thrown down by Rashawn Gary. So I thought Derek Carr had suffered a concussion at that point because they were doing the leg, where you extend the leg, all that stuff you would see in a concussion situation. And little did we know, afterwards we find out it's a shoulder situation, which for a quarterback could mean, a
Extended time,
significant situation, depending on what the actual injury was. Then we hear he's going to a local hospital for further imaging. Then it's like, wow, okay, this is no ordinary injury. But then we find out today that the news is actually better than initially feared. As you mentioned, it's a sprained AC joint. Immediately when I heard this news, I thought back to 2015. Drew Brees, who had an unbelievable run of durability at that time, had to miss his first game due to injury in 2015 with a sprained AC joint. And in that game, it was against Carolina, I believe. Luke McCown started, almost won that game, but Luke McCown gave them some decent life. But Brees only missed a game. He only missed a game. Now, it's different for every player, quarterback. It is a pain tolerance thing. It is a swelling situation. It's a situation where can you just have functionality in your shoulder, your throwing shoulder. So, yeah, we just wait and we see. Dennis Allen said they have dodged a major bullet. They will see where it goes in terms of pain tolerance going forward. Drew was the type. At that point, he was still very much in his prime. He was still very much like it mattered to him to be healthy on the field and did everything possible to get back on the field. And he did the following week. I'm trying to think, 2015, the age Brees would have been. I think he would have been a little bit older than Derek Carr is right now, but still it mattered to him to get back on the field quickly. Derek Carr kind of strikes me as that type of player because of his incredible run of durability. And when you've had that run of durability, it generally matters to these quarterbacks, especially at the quarterback position. And, Derek obviously understands the situation that he's in with the Saints and how much they all believe in him, how much they've invested in him. So we just have to wait it out. We just have to wait it out and see. And what really is tough about this whole situation is if that doesn't happen early in the third quarter, I think the Saints run away with victory by at least 2 touchdowns. I really think the way they were playing, they had just gotten an interception. And I know some were saying the offense still kind of looks meh, but it went like this. They had a punt, their first drive.
Momentum was on their side.
Yeah, exactly. They had a punt, their very first drive, a touchdown where they got inside the red zone and scored, another punt. Then they didn't get a drive because the punt returned for a touchdown. And then that really impressive 4-minute drive to close out the half. It sucks to get a field goal instead of a touchdown, but it still was a very nice closeout to a drive. I honestly believe if he doesn't go down, the Saints are scoring at least 10 more points and probably walking out of there with something like a 27-10, 27-13, whatever the case may be victory. Yep. Because at that point in time, I felt like momentum had really shifted. The stadium was really down on the Packers, and the Saints were just doing anything they wanted defensively, it felt like, and offensively, they were efficient enough. They weren't perfect, but I felt like they were marginally better, and for that day, it would have been enough. Well, that's what makes it tough about this whole situation is because they were running away with victory. You lose your starting quarterback, and the bottom falls out, and you could just tell it kind of everybody had to regroup a little bit, but it's almost like they were just trying to get to the finish line just so they can get out of there with a victory, and just regardless of how it looked in the second half, and as we saw, it wasn't enough. They didn't do enough, and they ended up taking their first L of the season.
Now, that play where Carr got hurt, like we obviously talked about his head hitting, he just hitting the ground, not having a way to buffer. What else did you see on that play, and with Rashawn Gary coming off that right side?
Look, it's unfortunate because I think the offensive line has certainly had their issues all season. We'll talk about them in a little bit later. But for this particular play, and this is not to add insult to injury, but I think DA even talked about it today, the sack was actually on Derek Carr. The sack is on Derek Carr. It's a 3rd and 9 situation. He holds on to the ball a little long because he wants to get that over out to Michael Thomas from right to left. There's an opposite defender kind of lurking, waiting for that over out. Derek does a nice job of not throwing it because that would have been picked off. But if you watch it, he's got Jimmy Graham kind of crossing it underneath where you make that throw, catches and runs. Maybe it's 4th and short. Maybe it's a minimal gain. Maybe it's a first down. But the one thing we know for sure is he's not getting sacked on that play. Mm-hmm. Then that extra hesitation, I'm not sure who got beat out. It might have been Hurst that eventually got beat at that point. But look, at that point, he's held on to the ball a little long, and then he gets sacked from the outside from Rashawn Gary, who takes him and kind of twists him and throws him to the ground. And clearly his shoulder and head hit the ground at the same time, and he didn't get up, and that was certainly a tense, scary few minutes. But by the letter of the law, when you watch a play and you grade out a play, he did hold on to the ball a little bit too long. And look, that's kind of what happens when you have an up and down, up front protection issues. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. So sometimes the clock is off in your head. Sometimes you're speeding up. Sometimes, like in that situation, you're holding on to it too long. So it's sort of the collective product of what's been a shaky offensive line, which we'll get to in a few minutes. But the play, in and of itself, technically, he held on to the ball a little too long. Hopefully, this is just minimal. It's only 1 or 2 games, and he's back, and they start clicking because they have some promising things on the horizon with Alvin Kamara coming back. But it's just it wasn't the situation we were expecting to be talking about this Monday here following that loss.
Now, we don't know if Carr is going to miss time. We won't really know how much time or if he's even going to miss this game until Dennis Allen gives us a little clarity in the next few days here. What we do know is who will hold it down for Carr in his absence, if there is one. Jameis Winston. We've seen success. We've seen failures from Jameis. Do you think we can see some success while he holds it down for Carr?
Depends on how long and what you're asking Jameis to do. He has never been better than the first 6 weeks of the 2021 season, the final season of the former Saints head coach, who was having a bad Monday as well, where they were running heavy play action, run first, pick and choose your spots, keep him out of harm's way. Jameis, if you're able to do that, and keep that going, yes, I think he can keep the team afloat for however long of a period of time it is. What you saw from Jameis, it's a very difficult situation to come into in Green Bay. I thought you saw a couple dimes. I thought you saw a couple near disasters. There were a couple throws that were almost picked off.
Mm-hmm. He likes working with Michael Thomas.
Yeah, well, at least initially. Yeah. He was up. He was down. I mean, you can't argue with the final results. It was it 5 or 4 straight punts where he was on the field. I know they punted the possession. Carr got hurt, and then the next 4 or 5, Winston. It all ended up being punts. It was a tight end screen that was way too hard. There was a kind of a throw out of bounds to Shaheed on one that was off the mark. But then look, when they got down, he made a couple nice throws, get him in field goal range to win the game. Unfortunately, the rookie kicker couldn't come through on that 46-yard field goal. So, look, Jameis he always manages to stay relevant. He always manages to stay relevant because there's so many highs and there's so many lows, and he's such a unique personality that he's always relevant, and his journey here has certainly been interesting. But if he has to go, it really has got to be heavy game plan specific when it comes to Jameis, and he has to stick to it. If he does that, then yes, I think he can do enough to help his team get a win. I guess initially would be against Tampa Bay, his former team.
Now, Sean, it doesn't really matter who the quarterback is if the offensive line can't fix their issues. How do the Saints go about addressing that front five there?
Okay, so I have officially crossed over because I was officially in the camp after the first couple weeks. Let's wait and see, get some more time on task together, and this will get better, hopefully. We have now moved into it's a problem. It is a problem. Carr's been sacked 11 times. I said, there were 4 sacks on him yesterday. 3 were the offensive line's fault. Jameis got sacked once as well. And when I watch, I don't know if it's a matter of talent. I truly believe it is a matter of chemistry. These 5 players together are just not in sync. When they get a stun up front, they get a twist up front, they get a whatever you want, a blitz up front. What you have to do as an offense, you have to know who has what, who passes off what player to whom, and who picks up a certain player in a certain situation, and you have to be consistent with that. That is not happening. That is not happening. Now your starting quarterback could potentially miss time. Now you may have a situation where a backup quarterback may have to come in, and you have to be ready. You have to be at the top of your game. I just wonder if they have to rethink the combination. It's not necessarily one player. All of them, they're just not on the same page. So it turns a very good offensive lineman looks bad if you're not on the same page. There was a sack early in the game where Eric McCoy got beat, but I'm talking to Deuce, and Deuce says he should have got help from the guard. There was a play where Ramczyk gets beat, but if you watch, Ramczyk is expecting Adam Prentice to chip, and there's a play where Hurst gets beat, and it just doesn't work. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of been an equal opportunity offender, if you will, in terms of what's happening with this offensive line, but it's crushing this team right now.
Yeah.
It's their biggest vulnerability. It's not gotten any better. I'm just curious if there's any kind of change coming to make this a more cohesive unit, because I just don't think you keep doing the same thing anymore. It's already cost this team too much.
All right, let's get into our fan mailbag here.
Let's do it.
And this first question is, this is a hot take if I've ever seen one, from Ron and Harahan. Tank this season. Draft number 1 college quarterback.
Yeah, not happening. They're not going to do it. They're 2-1, people. They're 2-1. We're taping this before the Monday night game, so we don't know what Tampa Bay did. But at worst, you're in second place in your division and a game behind. It's still September. What did I say? Survive September. And then when you get into October, you have a much better feel of what your team can and cannot do. I understand that's just frustration, but there's a lot of that right now. Let's just tear the whole thing down. Why? We are so close to talking about a 3-0 ball club right now, and one of the best records in the NFL. It's okay. I understand the panic, but I think right now inside the Saints headquarters, there's still a feeling that there's still plenty to play for and a lot ahead of them.
All right, next one comes from Terrence in New Orleans. If Carr has to miss any games, do you think Taysom Hill would give the team a better chance of winning?
I was curious if this was going to pop up.
You knew it had to.
I was curious about this. All right, let me just say, my initial reaction is keep Taysom in the jack-of-all-trades role because he's had a really good year so far. And that way you don't take that away from the offense and let Jameis come in at quarterback. But I mentioned a few minutes ago, if you feel like in a one-game window that Taysom can give you, by design and game plan, can give you a better chance to win, I don't see this. I don't think the Saints would shy away from that. I don't know if that's the case for Tampa Bay. My initial thought would be let Jameis run the offense and keep Taysom as the all-around player, because that's where he really is, one of the more unique players in the NFL. Look, last year Jameis struggled against Tampa Bay in week 2? Yeah, week 2 he struggled against Tampa Bay. I don't know if that factors into it. It really all goes into who you think gives yourself the best opportunity to win. I'm going to say right here, right now, if Derek Carr can't go, I would think Jameis gets the start. Now, if there's some struggles with Jameis starting and Carr would still be out beyond this week, This is all hypothetical, obviously. Then maybe you talk about other situations. But at least initially, I would think it would be Jameis. But not the craziest thought in the world. That's already been kind of talked about a little bit amongst some people that cover the team and just kind of openly speculating a little bit there. But not the craziest idea, but I still think it would be Jameis in that situation.
All right, and then finally, this last question comes from Andy in Terrytown. Was Blake Grupe asked where he wanted to kick from? They should have ran it up the middle on third down. Right foot kickers have a tendency to push the ball right from the left hash mark.
That's a great question. And I talked to Blake Grupe after the game. He said everything in the operation was smooth. He just missed it. I did not ask if that's where he prefers, what hash he prefers, but it makes sense. You see that a lot with right-footed kickers on that hash. And the play before was a throw to Michael Thomas to that sideline, that I guess technically the left sideline. That's something. Yeah, that could certainly be a factor. I don't know. Maybe if I talk to Blake in the week throughout the week this week, I'll get a little more clarification which one he prefers. I'm trying to think if most of his field goals have been from that other hash. Is that right? Ooh, I'd have to go back and check. I don't want to state that as fact, but that could be an issue. But still, look.
Sounds like a film study.
Maybe I'll look at it. Maybe I won't. I'll go check and see the other field goals. But that's no excuse. 46 yards in the NFL. You won the job of a Will Lutz. They traded away the other kicker because they felt like he was better suited for those type of situations. And he said the first two games were great. He didn't deliver. And look, that was for the game. Don't know for sure if they still win that game, if he makes that, but I know for sure they lose it if he misses, and obviously they missed, or he missed, and the Saints lost.
Well, 3 absolute bangers of questions today.
How about that?
Remember, if you want to hear your questions right here on the Fox 8 Overtime podcast, submit them via the Final Word feature in the Final Play app. For Sean Fazende, I'm Vasilios. We'll catch you guys next time on the Fox 8 Overtime podcast.